maintain the posteriors at the marks on the mandible. Flat plane over flat plane. What do you need to do now? Do your interocclusal. Yep. Okay.
Take out the back on
So,
2 millimeters.
I'm going to show you my trick. This is not official.
This is official, everyone.
Yeah.
Remember, those index grooves, they need to be divergent, and we want about 15 millimeters between the grooves at its widest measurement. I use the hot plate a lot when I'm working on wax rims. Some people use other instruments, but this is literally what I do. I'm going to get as far back on one side as possible, and I want to be up here in like the first premolar area. So I'm going to do a little mark like that, and a little mark like that. Then I'm going to go in with my barred Parker, a sharp barred Parker. And you create a little nice sharp groove. That groove, I'm trying to think, is it 2 millimeters by 2 millimeters?
Yes.
What will happen is, if the human jaw worked up and down, you can make these 10 millimeters deep. Because all you're doing is this. But remember, we're rotating. So if that index groove is too tall, as you're rotating, it's going to catch the tip of that bite record material and not see. It'll make sense here in a second when we do that. So basically, you're going to go in, sharpen up those 4, put just a little bit of Vaseline in there. I come in, find my anterior groove, and I'm going to mark right in front of it. Okay, so now this is where I'm going to reduce 2 millimeters. The typical thing we see, everybody gets 2 millimeters here, but they start to feather out towards the back. That needs to be a consistent 2 millimeter all the way.
Parallel with the plane?
Yep. This is where some people will use this straight-sided spatula. Do you get it hot enough? It's not too bad. What jumps out at you? There's one thing I want to change.
The sticky wax showing?
Nope.
It's hitting on the back.
We're feathering out. We're pretty good here, but see how we're feathering out towards the back? I want to be able. Did I lose my tongue pressure already?
Yeah.
I think we'll have it.
Oh, the hot yak right here.
Here's a trick.
You say that's feather.
You should be able to get your tongue compressor into that space. So I just need to take a little more off this back. Yeah, that didn't do a damn thing, did it?
I mean, so it's a bit bigger than
It's a little less than 2.
So,
So
yeah,
they should fit, yeah. Wow.
you're like so little.
A little extra.
Take a look at the max, sir. I'm going to change that angle again. I don't want to risk the maxillary wax rim touching the mandibular record base anywhere. Nice groove, though.
Groovy.
And it's pretty, basically that's what the practical is. Most of your work is going to be spent contouring the wax rims, getting the measurements. Then you just have to run back to the lab and get everything, get the mandibular mounted and.
I'm wondering, has anybody not finished this thing on time?
Yes.
Like, yeah.
Probably about 3/4 of
No, that would be me.
75% more.
All right.
in the practice.
That's what they're
Thank you for that, Jacoby.
It's pretty, there's probably still a little bit of taper in there, but I'm okay. That's good enough for our purposes.
So you want this open space right here at the angle? Like you want that open too?
Yep.
Okay.
Where are we talking about?
Pretty much fits in here.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
We're still a little bit thin there.
a lot of stuff to remember.
Got it? Okay. This is for to do your bite record. All you're going to do is just take your Bart Parker, just create, some little mechanical notches and all that. Take a little bit of PVS adhesive, but don't use a lot. You don't need a lot, because let's say we screw up our bite record. We want to be able to peel that bite record off and do a new one. And if you just use adhesive everywhere, you're going to end up peeling your wax rim off as well. If that happened during the practical, I'd probably cry too. So just enough, just a light tackiness, just to stabilize that bite record as we go back into the lab to mount things. And this is where you want to get your benchmate to come help you out. What you're going to do is you're going to stabilize the maxillary. You're going to stabilize the mandible. You want to make sure that you're rotating. Make sure you're comfortable with that. And once you're happy, you're going to open. Don't open so the condyles translate. You strictly want to be in the rotational part. Have your classmates squirt in here. Make sure they get on the grooves. Make sure they cover the space you create in the mandibular rim. And you're going to slowly close. You're not going to manhandle. You're going to slowly close till you are flush and hitting up front. I want to see the front closed. If I see space up front, I'm going to ding you for that. And there's space up front.
Ding.
So I'm going, ding. We're basically hitting kind of right in that area.
Right here.
Yep, kind of right there. And that's what you'll do is you fine tune that mandibular rim. Is you'll really get those, really approximated well. So yeah, you're in the rotation. We know we're in central relation. Have your student or you have your benchmate squirt that in there. Stabilize it in place. Don't just say, okay, that looks good. You got to sit there the entire time holding it, stabilizing. Now the PVS will set up in like a minute and a half, so it's not that big a deal. And there you be. You'll be able to take it all off.
Both sides one time.
Correct. This is already mounted on the cast. You've got your mandibular. So you want to set those together with the bite record in there. Sticky wax them together, hot glue them together. You've got to stabilize these together. I see y'all all the time just sit there and balance the mandible on that. And you just walk away and all of a sudden that thing just starts vibrating off as everybody else in the lab is using the vibrator, and then your mounting is thrown off. That's basically it. Mount the mandibular cast. You'll come back here, leave your articulator with the cast and the articulator. You're going to leave your bite block here. We're going to verify your vertical dimension measurement. And literally, we're going to just sit here, measure those. Yeah, that's where that wax may have gotten in there. We're going to check your vertical, and we're going to be tight about that.
Make sure nobody in your group got one of these. Somehow that one got issued to somebody that from about 15 years ago. See how thin it is?
Yep.
Yeah. Make sure nobody's got one of these.
Never seen that.
Because this won't work.
What else can I tell you? Oh, the other thing is midline. Remember what we told you about the midline? 1 millimeter.
It's like 51 from where I'm standing.
Is it 1 millimeter to the right? Why do I have that in my head? It's somewhere in the slide. There's the notch. You want to measure 1 millimeter to the right. Then you're going to put a midline mark in there. That's like 5 points or something like that.
1 millimeter to the right of the notch.
Don't quite verify that on the PowerPoint. I can't remember if it's 1 millimeter to the right or 1 millimeter
Which
to the left.
PowerPoint would that be? Just the one?
Kind of looks like one to the left.
It should be somewhere in the paperly PowerPoint.
Okay.
There should
Okay.
be
Well, the
some
left when
mention.
you're looking at it, but the right if you're like in the patient's mouth.
Always refer to the patient.
Yeah, it's to the right of the patient's mouth.
No,
Yeah,
just
but that,
Not-
it
not
just
on
doesn't
the
look
midline
like
right
the
now.
midline right there. That's one. I didn't know if it was to the opposite side.
I don't know. Somewhere.
We'll find it on PowerPoint.
I'll look at it.
Okay.
Put a mark up front.
Put it somewhere.
It's hilarious how many.
2 points and 5.
Yep.
That's all.
It's hilarious how many we see, you know, that didn't even bother to at least scratch something up there. So yeah, next Friday, you've got 2.5 hours to do this. We're grading Friday afternoon. We'll give you feedback on Tuesday. Based on your feedback, you just need to go back in, repair these rims, add wax to get them back to those pre-practical measurements. And I think we do it again the following Friday.
Yes, sir.
So Dr. Plummer said we get taken off if it's not like pretty, so that has nothing to do with like the type of wax. It's just like smoothness.
It's more smoothness and things like that. And basically, it's a way to assess, you know, how good you're developing your skill in handling that hot plate and things like that.
You said we have to have the projects done by Tuesday. By that, does he just mean the sign-offs?
As long as we're ready to go. I mean, most of yours said pretty good. You got your first set of wax rims, or base plate and wax rims. So I'm not too worried about it. But let's go ahead and get the maxillary cast mounted. And if you already have your practical cast, go ahead and get that mounted too. So basically this morning it's just a bunch of catch up, get things mounted, get wax rims fabricated. What are we doing next Tuesday? Any idea?
Talking about tooth selection.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Isn't that you?
Is that Dr. Z or is it me?
I think
Am I lecturing
it
Tuesday?
might be you.
Okay.